The way I see it, our fates appear to be intertwined.
Dark Souls. Dark Souls reminds me of reading The Hobbit as a youngin'. I was lost, didn't know what was happening, I didn't know who anyone was or why I should care, and I really wish the story would just get going. Then I put it down, and a few weeks later I picked it up again, and I just couldn't stop reading. The Souls series has devoured thousands of hours of my life. I regret nothing. Why didn't I do a review sooner? Well, there's two reasons. Firstly, I believed everyone had said everything I wanted to say. Lastly, I didn't know if I could be unbiased. This is one of my favorite game series, period. I hold these games in even higher esteem than Fallout.
If only I could be so grossly incandescent.
I just did a recent playthrough with Dark Souls 2, and it gave me some insight into why the game was so good. And the general consensus seems to be that Dark Souls 1 is the superior game. I will politely disagree in 8-directional rolling and power stancing. It's hard to even know where to start with this game. If I do a review of one of my favorite games, I'd want to talk about the art style, the mechanics, the ambient storytelling, the voice direction.
Won't you buy some of my moss?
And the overall tone of the game. Dark Souls feels like a handcrafted experience because every system has been tweaked and tuned to provide a very deliberately designed challenging experience that slowly unravels but hardly ever feels tedious, except when it does. Let's talk about the game. What is it, and what does it do well, and what did the game lack and the remaster still lack? But I have to be careful here. This game was lovingly designed, and saying something like 4-directional rolling is inferior to 8-directional rolling is not only an obvious observation, but it also doesn't take into account that Dark Souls 1, you can see there's this very deliberate attempt at invalidating your role by making you fight in tight spaces overlooking cavernous ravines. With an 8-directional roll, you might still be able to safely dodge, which invalidates that specific designed environmental challenge. And all the best designed encounters in the game always have this combination of environmental challenge, combat challenge, on top of challenging your situational awareness. But the camera sucks. Oh my god, the fucking camera, dude. Jesus Christ, there's a thing they didn't do fucking well. Alright, who should I lock on to? Should I lock on to the dude that's literally in fucking front of the guy? Or should I lock on to the guy who's way the fuck off in the distance to his right? I never understood why people always complained about the camera in this game. Sure, the camera's not amazing, but it works. Like I said, I was a die-hard fanboy of this game. I couldn't see a problem with it even if I wanted to look for one. This is fucking great. I have a confession. I think that I may have taken off my rose-colored glasses completely. The camera is bad, really bad. Dude, the distance on this lock-on camera is just dumb. I'm playing on Dark Souls Remastered version, and they somehow made it worse than vanilla. To the point where, while moving around in a hollow tree, the camera would just jerk around and force me off of branches and into the warm, caring, loving arms of 4 basilisks. Oh my god, you have got to be fucking kidding me. The fucking camera in this game blows. This happened over and over again until I turned off the camera fix they added, that is. So yeah, that's not great. When you hit the lock on camera button, the camera will reorient itself to face in whatever direction your character's facing in if there's no one to lock onto. This is a problem for a major reason. Whenever I engage a group of enemies, I'll typically pull the enemies one at a time if possible. Sometimes the enemy will aggro before I can lock onto them. So, what I do is close distance slowly, and as soon as the enemy comes towards me, I start backing up so I don't accidentally pull more when I start rolling around. But if you're backing up and hitting the lock on button, you're already facing away from the enemy, so the camera will swing around to face away from the enemy, and that can mean certain death. This will also happen if a wall is partly obscuring an enemy who is just around the corner, and even though I am clearly aiming at the enemy, the camera will flip around to the other way, and it normally results in getting comboed while my back is turned. If the distance that you locked on from stayed consistent, this wouldn't be that big of a problem. But the lock-on distance changes from level to level, and it's super frustrating. But I think I can explain this. If this isn't the reason, then I don't know what the hell's going on here. But when you get to the Duke's Archives, these mage guys here, you basically have to stand on top of them to lock onto them. I think what's happening here is that the level design and encounter design were designed for one another. Or to say it another way, they're symbiotic. See, there's 2 catwalks across from one another with several floors leading up. You come into this room and kill a crystal shield guy and turn the corner into the library where there's a mage up there across from you and a mage on the catwalk with you. Your instinct will likely to be to deal with the mage on the first floor, then turn to the stairs to get the other guy, but it's not that simple. First, if you're a mage, you might try locking onto the guy on the walkway above, but you can't. He's too far away, but he could sure as shit hit you with his spells, and up until this point, if you couldn't lock onto somebody, they couldn't hit you with a spell either. I can't lock onto him, but he can lock onto me. Isn't that a bitch? Like, see, he can hit me from where he is, but I can't hit him. So how's that for fair? And I can already hear people in the comments saying, but Strat, they did that because each level has a different light value, and if you can't see the enemy, you can't lock onto him. Okay, fine. You know, it looks awfully bright in here, first of all, and second of all, why does the game have different rules for the enemy than it does for me? That isn't very fair, is it? I mean, if they could see me, I should be able to see them. Unless there's some kind of biological explanation, you know, like they're bats. I mean, that's a good explanation, but that's not what's going on here. Then this guy, if you hit him, he'll teleport away, and he'll be in an even better position in this little tiny hallway. Now you have to fight him while your back is turned to the mage above you, and if you just so happen to get around him, you'll now have your back facing the archer over here. But you'll find that you'll be unable to lock onto him until you're standing on top of him, because if you could lock onto him at a normal distance, you would also be able to lock onto the guy on the catwalk, thus eliminating the challenge of this room. What I'm saying is that I think they did it on purpose, because this is the remaster and they left it in. You know what I'm saying? People have not been quiet about this issue either. It sucks, and it's very noticeable. But in a way, it works, right? Like, the encounter feels exactly as it's supposed to feel, but it also affected a bunch of other stuff like invasions. This is a bad area for mages because you can't lock on, so melee invaders can close distance before you can get off an attack. And maybe that's on purpose too. Like, maybe this place is where invaders come to gank mages. It makes sense, doesn't it? The enemies all have magic resist, they do very little damage, or they do insane amounts of damage depending on the mood of the enemy. Oh my god. This isn't actually random. You see this guy dancing, looking like he's got a pant load that he's trying to shake out? He's buffing the enemy, and it buffs them a lot. So they can basically one-shot a mage like myself. So anything that I could complain about is just justified by the fact that all of these things, including the poor lock-on distance, was done on purpose to elicit a certain reaction from the players. And that's the main reason why I friggin' love this game. Every aspect of it, every single inch of it feels like somebody's vision, but I gotta ask, was it worth making this level play like absolute dog shit? And this brings me to encounter design and how that's really about 50% of the appeal of this game. Let's look at how the encounter design changes over time and teaches the player not only how to play the game better, but challenges them to think about what they're going to do before they do it. The very beginning of this game is a great spot right after you find your second bonfire. See this bridge? The problem here is twofold. You have guys up here who are throwing down bombs onto the walkway. The bombs are easy enough to handle, but the next room is where problem number 2 is. This room is full of enemies. You can only see 2 of them at first, and the third will come around this corner.
Prepare for a surprise attack!
But not until the player has already started running towards the door. That's when the poor player will come to a shocking revelation. This room has 3 people in it, and one of them has a shield.
Surprise, motherfucker!
If this is the player's first time through, they'll likely have shit a brick, because it's hard enough to fight 2 dudes when you just learned how to dodge, and then you throw a shield bearer into this? I mean, those guys are like mini-bosses in Demon Souls to new players, and since Xbox players likely never played Demon Souls, they're probably unprepared for this challenge, as they will be until they learn every tool at their disposal. If the player hesitates and doesn't continue running towards the fight, the bombs will kill him before the knight even has a chance to swing his sword. If the player's brave and reckless, he might try to run into the room and hope his roll dodges are well timed, but if he hesitates and survives the bombs, he could just find himself getting body blocked in the doorway. This part right here teaches you the importance of surveying your surroundings and ensuring you have a plan, and until you can execute that plan without hesitation and with composure, you'll fail until it becomes second nature. And best of all, this encounter is fun because each time you die, you learn something new about the game, or you get curious and you start looking up how to play the game better. I always felt like Dark Souls was much better at making the player want to get better at the game than Demon Souls was. I mean, there's some bullshit with that game for sure. There's something else to this encounter, and that's the freedom of choice. An astute player might already know how to draw aggro, and by now they've likely measured out the distance it takes to draw a guard out of hiding. So, you might run towards the room, then when you see the knight, turn around and run the other way and fight them in a more open area, or draw them into the room with the bonfire. Or you could roll madly inside the room and deal with each one with calm and grace. Or you could walk in and parry each and every one of them, killing them in a single hit. It's up to you. Unless you suck at the game, then I guess it's not really up to you anymore. The point is, these encounters are designed to give the moment-to-moment combat tension. It seeks to test the player's ability to adapt in times of crisis, and at every moment it's teaching the player something new through simply putting up barriers to progress. Then we come to an even more interesting encounter, and it's in the first level again. Once again we have one bomb thrower, but he's ready to throw the moment you turn the corner. The other two will likely rush forward to attack you. You remember those bomb guys from earlier? One of them is slowly walking towards you, and if you don't finish these guys quickly, he'll be throwing bombs at you from the roof as well. He's there to cut off your escape route when you engage the shield knights below. Once the guys with the shields start walking up the stairs, you'll likely be backing up, as any sane person would when shield-bearing, spear-wielding undead start walking towards them. But if you back up too much, you're going to get nailed by a bomb just in time for a shield knight to stab you in the gut. If you rush forward, the knight on top of the watchtower behind you will shoot you in the back. This encounter is teaching you many things, like how to fight in a tight space, how to cut off line of sight for archers, but most of all, it's teaching you to check your surroundings for traps. Once you get through this encounter, you might find a Black Knight. This guy's here to kill newbies, or to give veterans that satisfying feeling of parrying him over and over again until he falls over dead. It's rewarding not just for the purposes of early game loot, but because you overcame a challenge that old you would have had no business even trying to overcome, and new you wiped the floor with him. What was once terrifying to a newbie feels good to get revenge on later. Modern games don't do enough of this. But the combat isn't always fair though. The enemy is allowed to hit you through walls and shit, but your weapon will bounce off of walls. It's stuff like this that makes the game frustrating in a bad way, an unpredictable kind of bad where it's hard to tell the outcomes of an action. This area is also a perfect example of what the series and the Kingsfield series did really well, and that is well hidden and expansive secret areas. Like this one right here that's only accessible through this wall of barrels, and if you find it, you'll be taken up, down, and around the area until you wind up back where you started. It all flows so nicely that taking a side path never feels like wasted time, but instead, a high risk and sometimes very high reward journey. There's even 2 whole optional areas in the game hidden behind secret walls, but we'll get to that later. Then there's encounters that act as hard barriers to certain areas, like the dragon fight. You could do what so many people have done before you, which is attack the dragon with a bow, and somewhere around your 300th arrow you might kill the dragon or it'll probably fly off. Or you could go below and shoot its tail until you get a really nice weapon. Or then you could try to draw the dragon out off the wall, because trying to run through his fire is a bad idea. If you wait here, his fire can't hurt you, and eventually he'll come looking for you. That's when you run into the building, grab the bonfire, and open up a shortcut to a new area. The encounter's interesting because of all the ways that you can work your way past the obstacle. Some are tedious, but some test your ability to think like the enemy. And if you can lure people into traps you've set up for a change. Then you get to the real first boss. You don't know this is a boss fight, but all the same rules of previous encounters are at work here. There's 2 knights at the top of the tower you just exited. Why are they there? Well, if you haven't learned to check these towers for archers yet, when you trigger the boss fight, not only will you be dodging a massive axe, but you'll also be picking arrows out of your back. There's an environmental aspect as well. The place where you fight is on a rampart that's just big enough for you to roll on, but the demon takes up almost all of the space, and the walls of the rampart are broken in places, which means if you're not careful, you could just roll right off or get swatted off by a massive axe. If you were curious and decided to go up to the top of the tower first, you'll kill the archers. From this vantage point, you may realize, like you may have realized with the Asylum Demon, that you can drop down on this guy's head for massive damage, giving you a huge advantage early on, and your boss run may end up looking similar to mine. And that's how you get a victory achieved. There's another thing that this game does that Dark Souls 2 kind of forgot. The game never makes you fight more than one boss at the same time. And when it does, it always makes sure that it sends you with backup. So in the fight against the Gargoyles, once you've reduced one Gargoyle to half health, a second flying bastard will join the fight. You can clear this fight 1v2, or you can summon Solaire. The game never seems unfair, even if it busts your balls now and then with gimmicky fights. Oh my god, get the fuck out of my way, dogs! This guy's a miserable fucking fight. Not all bosses are created equal. I don't think I need to say this, but I think most of us would agree that the Capra Demon is the worst fight in this game. The room you fight him in is only about 3 times larger than he is, and he has 2 dogs which, depending on which way the wind blows, might go to his right, might go to his left, or split the difference and cut off both routes to the steps. You normally want to get up these steps, but it seems that in a remaster, some sick asshole fixed it so the Capra Demon will slap the shit out of you if you try to cheese him in that way. This is one change that I am loath to admit, but it kind of works. You end up having to approach the fight in a completely different way. Well, you know what? I'll let the gameplay speak where words just can't do it justice. Okay. I'm not getting fucked up by him again. Oh my god, I can't fucking see anything! Jesus! It's so hard to fucking see. Like they added a fucking tree or something, man. Fuck. Ugh. Got him. Fucking god. Then there's bosses like the Gaping Dragon. And no, this isn't some kind of slang for a sexual position like, I gave her a gaping dragon. This is an actual boss name. This boss isn't a threat if you stay away from his obviously dangerous mouth, and if you only attack him from the side, he really can't muster up a defense. This is an example of a boss that's cool looking, but boring as hell to fight. Dark Souls has 1, maybe 2 fights like this, where the boss is so obviously inept that you really don't learn anything except which bosses you should soap sign farm. Dark Souls 2 has maybe 4, maybe 5 bosses like this, and it's one of the weakest aspects of that game. Dark Souls handles difficulty differently than most games in the same genre. It handles them differently than the sequels. To explain this, I want to use Dark Souls 2 as a sort of contrasting material, or one level in particular, the Iron Keep. You'll see a bridge first, and this is where the fun begins. See this guy? He has an attack that hardly has any telegraphing. He's also fast, and he runs at all times like he has to go to the bathroom right now or there's going to be a mess. He is one of the many of these bastards that you'll be fighting. Then you'll transition to an open space, and then if you survive all that, you get to put up with this. No! Fuck you, camera! Then after all that, the game wants you to fight the boss who has an immense amount of HP. He's a mid-game DPS check and it's not fun because of all the times you get ambushed here and how slow it is to progress through the area without aggroing the entire Alone military. I know I'm not saying it right and I don't care. The challenge in Dark Souls 2 seems to be designed by slapping a bunch of enemies in an area together so that you are constantly fighting more than one of them on tiny bridges. It's testing its players' patience, which, well, I can see how some people would say it isn't fun, because it isn't. Then we'll take a level that everyone brings up as the worst in Dark Souls 1, Blighttown. Why do they hate Blighttown? Is it because he takes penis-enhancing pills? Horny goat weed? No. People hate it because of these two guys. Then when you figure them out, you got a real problem. How am I going to kill these guys who are hitting me with toxic knives from across the room? None of these challenges are overwhelming. If you take it slow and keep the cover and don't take any unnecessary risks, you'll reach the bonfire, and this is what Souls did best in 2 parts. First recipe is encounter design. These encounters were designed to make the player stop and think, problem solve. The combat encounter is a puzzle, and the combat itself is more like a rhythm game, whereas DS2 is more like marching up a mountain in the summer with a sweater on. The second recipe, and this is probably the most important part, is the spacing of bonfires. It's reasonable but challenging. Whereas in DS2, there's a lot of head-scratcher bonfires, like 2 within a room or 2 of each other. In Blighttown, the darkness of the level forces you to take it slowly, and this is the game gently easing you into a style of play that will be conducive to beating the level. Then, the distance you have to travel from one level to the next is spaced out in a way that the journey there is tough, and when you see places you want to explore, you'll stop and ask yourself, do I want to risk it, or do I just keep going and hit the bonfire first? This question wouldn't get asked if the player could quick save at any time. The spacing of these things and the opening of shortcuts is pivotal to how the game feels to play, and it's a thing that a lot of games just get plain wrong. And on the way to that bonfire, if this is your first time through, you'll run into paths that take you to dead ends but reward you with loot. But when your Estus is running low and your health bar is still full, running into a dead end can really ratchet up the tension. So I guess there's a third recipe really, it's branching paths. Have you ever played a JRPG? I remember in a game like Final Fantasy II on the SNES, you would be wandering around a level and you'd come to a branching path. And you'd know by now, at this point in the game, that you'd have 2 choices. And you knew that one of them was always the right way to go, while the other one was going to lead you to a treasure chest. It was predictable. And you might consider not going to get the loot depending on how many battles you had to fight to get there. That's a slog. In Blighttown, these branching paths can be entire levels unto themselves, and the verticality of the level helps hide a ton of nice loot that'll have you combing through every nook and cranny once you've found that first bonfire. You remember how I was saying before that Dark Souls does some great work with secret areas? Well, I've played through this game several times, and I never knew about this one secret area in Blighttown. And I don't mean that it's some side area, I mean it's an entirely different level. It's actually 2 levels, but we'll get into that in a minute. What happens is you'll need to find a secret wall in this nook carved into this massive tree. Then there'll be a chest. Behind that chest is yet another wall, and then this will likely be your expression when you see this. Oh my god, wow. That's incredible. I did not know about this shit. And this area will absolutely bust your balls. See, the first thing that you have to deal with are these basilisks. They're not too bad. You can kill them quickly, but if they end up getting a shot off on you or spray you with any of that toxic cloud shit, you're gonna get cursed. And getting cursed in Dark Souls 1 means that half of your life is gone. That's not good. It's the nest of these bastards further down that really send me into a tizzy. Not only are you fighting basilisks, but you're fighting 2 of the hardest bosses in the game. The camera. Okay. Dude, fuck this camera in its ass. Which is just great. And the ghost of MIYAZAKI pushing you off of branches. No! Then, once you figure that out, then you have to figure out how to kill these little mushroom bastards and their big brothers on a tiny platform in a circular arena. But beware, MIYAZAKI's ghost isn't through at you yet. He wants you, the player, to go hollow. I can't fucking move! I literally can't fucking move! Look at this! Dude! What the fuck? Joy. Then if you survive all that, you get to see this. What the fuck? This is a whole nother area? The next encounter is with a Hydra, and it's likely a monster you have no way of killing at this point, save for maybe cheesing him over to sand dune with a bow, but here's the thing, this guy can fly. What in the fuck? What? Okay. If you somehow find a way to dodge the Hydra, kill the big boy and his basilisk inside the tree, then make another dash across the dunes, you are rewarded. Not just with an item, you're rewarded with this. Oh my fucking god, what? What the fuck is this? Fuck yeah, bro, this was totally worth going through all this. This area, which I had never seen before, that was so well hidden that I may have never seen it if my stream audience hadn't told me about it, punished me around every corner, tested my patience, and shortened my lifespan. But it was worth it to see this. And if you join the Covenant, you get to replace your perfectly normal human head with a far superior dragon head. And if you're a good little dragon, you get to be a real dragon boy. I was feeling real good about myself, but now I had a real hard question to answer. How the hell do I get out of here? Elden Ring is out today. I wanted to get this video out now. That's why I'm kind of breaking it up into parts. And if it works out, I'll probably keep doing that so I can get videos out at a more regular clip. But Elden Ring, man, I can't wait. That's going to happen tonight. So at, I think, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the game comes out on PC. So I will be on Twitch streaming this probably for the next week and a half, probably, for a review. So if you guys want to come by, watch it, that would be amazing. Come on by. I'll have a link in the description if you don't already know where I am. Also want to go ahead and thank all the patrons. You guys have been sustaining me throughout the year, and I gotta say, I really appreciate it. You guys are amazing. You've made it so that I no longer have to be under the yoke of the man, and now the only man I gotta be under the yoke of is the algorithm. I appreciate your guys' help, and you know, for all of the Russian fans right now, I wish you guys luck sincerely. I hope all of this stuff blows over without anything major. You guys stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time. Peace.